Thanks, Naveen, for joining us. Naveen is an entrepreneur driven to solve big problems, and Viome's goal is to make illness optional, which I find very fascinating, and we're going to talk about how to do that. But also, something that people should know about you, you're also a director on the board of the X Prize Foundation. So again, this whole theme of thinking big about changing the world. And you've won the Humanitarian Innovation Award at the United Nations. So, my gosh, man, what haven't you done?
Oh, I think we are still, in some sense, probably about 5 years away from making sure that humanity, no one ever have to be sick unless they decide that that's a choice they want to make. And people always wonder, why would anyone want to be sick? But the fact is, every day we make choices, sometimes knowingly, and sometimes we think we are doing the right thing, but not knowing that they actually are the wrong thing. So for example, people tell you that, hey, you should eat healthy. And when they really say healthy, they say eat spinach and broccoli and cabbage and Brussels sprout and apple. And it turns out every one of the things I just mentioned were exactly the things that were causing my body harm. Right? Because for each individual, what is healthy for one person is actually maybe toxic for someone else. And that's not something I came up with. That's something we knew thousands of years ago when someone said, one man's food is another man's poison, right? So that to me is the key, is that we sometimes unknowingly harm ourselves, and sometimes we just make the choices that we know smoking is bad for you, and you say, you know what, I'm going to smoke. Well, being sick is your choice, just like being healthy is a choice.
So what motivated you to get into the food world? Like every superhero has their origin story. What was your origin story when it comes to food?
You know, it's very interesting that most corporate origin stories are full of bullshit, right? I mean, people rewrite the history of what actually happened. So I can give you a completely great bullshit about why I started the company, but I think the truth sometimes is just as good. Which is, I was finishing up my last project of going to the moon. And when you actually are taking literally the moon shot, what do you do for an encore? And I kept thinking that, having done the moon shot, maybe I should take a symbolic moon shot. And the only two things I thought are worthwhile dedicating 5-10 years of your life. What if I could fix education, or I could fix healthcare? And I really looked at both of them, and it turns out the problem were very, very similar in both cases, right? People think they're broken. It turns out neither of the system is actually broken. It's doing exactly what they were designed to do. So our education system was designed to teach us skills, and in the world of exponential technologies, any skill you learn becomes obsolete by the time you graduate, so that really doesn't work. So we have to rethink and reimagine education system around learning to learn, learning to solve problems that happen to be multidisciplinary. But in the healthcare, it was very interesting. It was designed at the times when we were all dying from infectious diseases. And we have done an amazing job of getting rid of primarily from most of the infectious diseases. And yes, every now and then you get the infection that is antibiotics resistant. But those are few and far between. But the fact today is 90% of us are going to suffer from chronic diseases. When I say chronic diseases, I mean obesity. I am a great example of that, right? Diabetes, depression, I have no idea what that is, but someday I'll find that out. But there are people who suffer through depression, anxiety. You look at autoimmune diseases, you start to look at cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Every one of these diseases I mentioned are interestingly the diseases that start in the gut. All diseases begin in the gut. And what we're realizing in the new science is that we are not alone. When we think of ourselves as human, less than 1% of our genes that are expressed in our human body, actually the ones that come from our mom and dad, 99% of the genes expressed actually are microbial genes or microorganisms that happen to be bacteria, viruses, yeast, fungus, mold, and bacteriophages. But these are the ones that actually produce the enzymes that either are nutrients for our body or they are toxin for our body. And now, interesting thing is, as you start to look at the literature, and you don't have to take my word for it, every one of you can Google and pick a word that you want, depression and microbiome, Parkinson's and microbiome, Alzheimer and microbiome, and you will start to see how they are connected. But interestingly, we have known that for almost a decade now. And there are tens of companies that actually set out to analyze your microbiome, and the problem never got solved. So you have to wonder, are we really know what is going on? And it turns out it wasn't that we didn't know that microbiome is actually responsible for it, but the companies that were analyzing the microbiome were asking the wrong questions. So as an entrepreneur, my lesson that I learned in life is it's not about having the right answer. It's about asking the right question. So every microbiome company asks a question which says, I want to know the organisms that are in your gut. That is the question they ask. I want to know every organism that's in the gut, and if I knew that, I could find out why you are sick. Well, it turns out that is a wrong question. The right question to ask is, what are they doing? Not who they are, what are they doing? So my knowing there is a Paul and Jessica and Gloria and Tom in this room doesn't help me. What really helps me is to know, are they engineers, they're doctors, they're plumber, they're electrician? What are the functions they are performing? Because what matters is what they do, not who they are. Because tens of different organisms, just like tens of different people, can do exactly the same thing. Or worse yet, the same person can do multiple things depending on the environment it is in. So for example, when I'm at work, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm at home, I'm a dishwasher. Am I changed? No. It's just simply my environment had changed. So the same organism in your gut may be producing nutrients. The same organism in my gut could be producing the toxins based on the environment it is in. And that was the fundamental problem we set out to solve. And it wasn't the easiest problem I could have done. I mean, the easier problem would have been to build an iPhone app, right? Or something to do, just some fancy stuff that makes me feel good so I can enjoy my life on some sunny beach, which I really wanted to do. But then I realized that I'm just not born for that. I am born to solve problems, and I would kill myself if I was sitting on some sunny beach, right? So I realized that my wife probably wouldn't be very happy about that, so I should go start another company, which is exactly what I did. Now, you have a question. You keep moving it closer and closer.
So the state of the science. I think you talked about there's a decade of science behind this, and what the function of the organisms really hadn't been explored. Talk to me about how your scientists redefined that question and how deep they've gone. I also want to touch on the question of accuracy. So I think people are very, very concerned that there's not enough accuracy to predict the onset of IBS or diabetes based on these microbiomes, but you actually have good data to prove that there's some relevancy and accuracy.
Well, more than that. So this is not the technology that anyone like me could have ever done. It turns out I went on a searching to find out how would someone measure what these microbes are producing. And to do that, you have to measure the gene expression, not the genes. So one of the foolish things that has set us back 10 years is the whole idea of relying on DNA. Genes. The genes are the biggest problem. Genes are just the alphabet. It doesn't really tell you what is going on, just like the alphabet doesn't tell you it's a thriller or it's a poetry. Remember, the day before you get depression, your DNA is same as the day after the depression. The day before you get fat, your DNA is exactly the same as after that. The day you get diabetes, your DNA never changes. The day you get autoimmune diseases or flare-up, DNA never changes. So the fact everyone wants to look at the DNA and personalize something, that's a foolish thing to do, right? Because what really changes are the gene expression. Just to tell you what gene expression means, you look at me as ourselves. Every part of our body is identical DNA. It comes from exactly the same cell, the zygote. Why do we have the hair growing on our head and the teeth growing in our mouth, not the other way around? It is simply the gene expression. What genes are expressed, what genes are not expressed, is what changes the dynamics of who we are and what diseases happen. To do that, you have to do the RNA sequencing. And I was told that RNA cannot be sequenced. And I spent months trying to figure out how to do it. And it turned out it just wasn't possible, so was I told. Until I ended up at Los Alamos National Lab, where these guys have spent billions of dollars for the biodefense project, trying to figure out if a bad actor were to get hold of something, how would we know what made us sick? And they say the only way to know what's making us sick is to do the gene expression. Once I learned that they had the technology, I spent the next couple of months trying to convince them to give me that technology so we can keep the humans healthy. After showing them that I am absolutely dedicating my life to solving the problem of helping billions of people not suffer from chronic diseases, they gave me the exclusive right to the technology. Now, I'm going to tell you something what happened. In last 3 years, we actually had over 100,000 people take the test. We are now looking at the data. We can predict the onset of depression, diabetes, obesity, and IBS. In fact, we just finished the test where we are able to tell you the oral cancer with 89% accuracy by looking at your saliva microbiome. We are now doing the pilots we already announced with Mayo Clinic on insomnia and obesity. We're doing a pilot with Kaiser on diabetes. We're doing a pilot with United Healthcare Group on IBD and type 2 diabetes. We are doing the work with pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer, oral cancer, ovarian cancer, and we are working with GSK, and we're going to be announcing that soon, so you heard it here first. It's not a public forum, so sure I can say that. Where we are developing the vaccines to prevent autoimmune diseases. Think about that for a second. So we are absolutely convinced the chronic diseases are preventable and reversible, and we will not stop until we solve that problem.
So 100,000 users currently.
And every single quarter, we are now adding over 50,000 now, and we're going to be adding 100,000 a quarter. At this rate that we're going.
Where are you getting those users? Where are they coming from, and why are they coming to you?
So they're coming to us because every single person who does the test finds out that it's actually helping them. So we get thousands of people telling us I can't make any claims. So just to be very clear here, this is what our customer tell us. I don't have an FDA approval to make any claim of curing any diseases. Our customer tell us they're losing weight. Our customers tell us they no longer need the diabetes drug. They've stopped taking biologics. Their acne is completely gone. They no longer have depression or anxiety. Now, we are now doing a double-blind clinical trial for 5,000 autistic kids in Pennsylvania to reverse autism simply with diet and supplements. We are doing a 20,000 trial for depression and anxiety. So we are doing all these trials because anecdotally it's working, and anecdotes makes a great story but not a good science. So we are focused on creating a good science where we can do a double-blind clinical trial, and whether we go FDA route or not, but we can present the data to FDA that this is what exactly is working.
So to be clear, you can't be prescriptive in the results. You have to provide the data, and you have to provide the relevance based on the population that you're comparing against. And then some professional has to interpret that data, or how does that data translate into action?
So currently, everything is done on your app. Requires absolutely no expertise, no doctors, no nothing. You do the test, you get so by the way, the test when I started used to cost $3,000. Today, you can buy it on our website, or in fact, if you go up, you might be able to buy it for $129. Tell them I sent so, because I think they're selling them for $199, but just tell them that I said $129 and they'll give it to you. Right? But anyway, you can go up there on the booth and buy that for $129. Is literally the reason we are doing it is because we want 2 million of us to do that. So why people come to us? Every single person who takes a test tells 10 other people. So literally we spend zero money in marketing. Everyone is our customer who comes to us, tells 10 other people who buy it. Nobody buys alone. There is always someone they love, and they buy it for them, and they end up buying it for the Christmas gift for everyone else. So it is unbelievable the traction we are getting because we are fully focused. Now I'm going to give you a sob story. Less than a year ago, my dad had a pancreatic cancer. And I saw the actual data. In fact, there are 2 research that shows the pancreatic cancer is caused by the gut microbiome moving from gut through the bile duct to pancreas. And that is, in one research, they show it is fungus. In other research, they show there were some bacteria and fungal together that causes that. And this researcher injected the antifungal and antimicrobial thing inside the pancreas, killed them, and the immune system killed the cancer. I am holding the research. I go to the doc, and I said, Doc, my dad is going to die. I want you to inject this. And he says, this is not the protocol. We will not do that. And I saw him die. And I promised my dad that irrespective of what happens, if I can't save him, that is my destiny. But I'll promise you that I'm not going to give up until I do everything I can to make sure no one else has to suffer from chronic diseases. And that is what I'm on the mission for. So I'm not here to make more money. God has been very kind to us. I came to this country with nothing. We didn't have food to eat. We didn't have a place to stay. God has given us everything we could have asked for more. This is my 7th venture, and every venture, knock on wood, it has been extremely successful. So I'm here to help the humanity move forward, and I need your help. Every one of you who can help us get to that data, to get to 2 million people, not only you will help yourself, you will help the humanity move forward. So find it in your heart for yourself, for the loved ones you have, your neighbors, and if we can solve this problem, not just for us, for our children and grandchildren, we'll all go down as the people who actually did something.
I think that's a great thing to mention, which is the mission-driven opportunity for fun. Yeah, we'll get to you want a question in 1 second? Give me 1 second here, and we'll open up for questions. I did want to present the broader landscape of the industry to you and just talk a little bit about, we've now seen 2 companies exit the market, one that you acquired, Inhabit, and one that just today filed for bankruptcy in Viome. What sets Viome apart, other than obviously the mission-driven founders and the science that you're doing? What are the things that you hang your hat on at Viome?
Several things. The science is really what matters. So if you look at the Habit, that was a company that was funded by Campbell Soup, and they spent $75 million. They focused on the fancy app, the recipes and meal planning because they wanted to sell the food. We don't sell anything. We simply use the good science to tell you what foods you need to avoid, what foods you need to eat, and why. We tell you exactly why I shouldn't eat apple, why I shouldn't eat broccoli, why I shouldn't eat spinach, or why I need to eat the food. We tell you why. So we acquired them basically for their recipes and meal planning, and as you can imagine, we didn't pay much for it. Viome went under because not only they had a very poor science, they were using something called 16S that cost $4 to do it. And they were also double billing, triple billing, and also billing the insurance company $3,000 for the test, which was complete insurance fraud. And finally, the criminal investigation, FBI raided them. They're all going to go to jail. And at this point, every criminal investigation is currently pending against them. I felt bad because the woman, Jessica Richmond, there are very few women entrepreneurs that have actually done a great job. And it's sad to see, instead of creating great role models, when we have great women entrepreneurs fall short. Because it's not the men are not bad, it's just there are so many of them, there are enough good ones out there, and so few great women entrepreneurs, whether it's Elizabeth Holmes or Jessica Richmond, when you start to see that, it breaks my heart because there is no role model for our daughters, and I just sad to see that happen. Yeah.
Okay. I have an interesting story related to Viome.
Can you get closer, ma'am?
Okay.
Yeah.
My husband actually took that test a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he has had colorectal cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So he has horrible issues with his digestive system. So he has to have everything organic, natural, grass-fed, you name it. And your recommendations on your test have made a night and day difference in his life. He has not had an episode in 10 weeks, which is...
Oh, thank you very much.
Unbelievable. Let me tell you, it's his wife, unbelievable. So, of course, I've now taken the test, but I haven't got my results. And if you could, make the test come back faster...
So honestly, here's the thing. Honestly, our volume...
There's a 6-week waiting list on the test to get your results.
I mean, unfortunately, our volume quadrupled in the last 2 months. And we were delayed. Good thing is we bought more robots, hired more people running 3 shifts, and our backlog should be done in the next 6 weeks, completely gone. I'm hoping 4 weeks, and all the backlog will be gone, and we'll be back to within a week, getting the results back within a week. But unfortunately, it's a good problem to have. We were so focused on building a great product that... I'm sorry?
Out of Los Alamos or Seattle? Where are you out of?
So I am based in Seattle, but the lab that we have is in Los Alamos, New Mexico. AI, all the artificial intelligence team is all in New York. All of our translational sciences San Diego that came out of Craig Venter. Our AI, the head of AI is the head of IBM Watson. And the guy who actually did all the technology for Federal Lab, Los Alamos, works for us. He's our chief science officer, Dr. Vucic. So unbelievably great team. And thank you very much for saying that. That is exactly the kind of testimony we get. I can't say we help cure colorectal cancer, but our customers feel it. And that's really, these are the people why our volume quadrupled in the last 2 months.
I don't think that was a plant, anybody. So just to dispel that. So thank you for that story. Well, I want to give a hand to Naveen, and thank you for giving us the Viome story. And everybody, go upstairs and tell him Naveen sent you. Go get your test.
Thank you. Thank you, Brent. Thank you. Bye.